Hey everyone, welcome to Unique Ways with Thomas Gerard, an audio podcast. We've got a super awesome guest today who focuses on service design and UX research as an associate director at EY Design Studio. She's a candidate for a Master of Design and an ex-Shopify and Capital One employee. And her name is Katrina Heschel. Welcome, Katrina.
Hi, thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Are you ready for 20 questions?
Let's do it.
Okay, here we go. The first one is, tell me a little bit more about yourself. What do you do?
What do I do? Right now I'm a associate design director at the EY Design Studio in Canada, working with different clients to improve their service design, UX research practices, and helping scaling human-centered design in different organizations. I've previously worked at Shopify, Capital One, RBC, Vancity Credit Union in Vancouver, as well as Getty Images. So some different backgrounds, but right now in my spare time, when I'm not working full-time at EY, I'm doing, like you mentioned, my Masters of Design and Strategic Foresight and Innovation at OCAD in Toronto.
That's super impressive. And it sounds like you must have your plate full, but you always did. I remember when we first met, you were you working for a nonprofit in a kind of leadership role, or?
When we first met, I took some time off from My Planet Digital, which was a Drupal shop in Toronto that was working also in Vancouver. So when we met, I was enrolled in the Emily Carr Interaction Design Certificate Program out of Vancouver.
Oh yeah, okay, I remember now. Okay. Okay, number two, what's a key piece of knowledge that makes you different?
I think just working across different organizations, seeing internally, being a mostly in-house designer, I would say it would be informed by customer experience, cooperative business models, different ways of working in terms of startups and agile methodologies, and bringing different people along through that growth and maturity in their UX practices.
That's super interesting. Before this meeting, I was looking through your LinkedIn and seeing how your career has kind of lily padded through one job to the next in a really kind of successful way, which I think actually is a unique thing.
Thanks. Yeah. I would say that it's been great to really focus on areas that I want to grow and in organizations where I'm very missions and values aligned. So things like working at Vancity and in the cooperative business model, how it helps both their customers or I guess we call them members, the membership grow, also how the employee experience influences that. And then, all the way to places like Shopify, where I certainly am aligned with merchant growth and how we help small businesses scale within different economies. And so it's been great, I think, to follow kind of your values and where your skill sets can lend to help different organizations as you live those values. So that's been great. I've been really fortunate in that way that I've been able to grow my career through meeting lots of different people and helping them with their the ways that they wanted to grow design. Yeah.
And in a basic way, we're talking about a kind of nexus between business and design, I feel like. We had a popular guest, Dr. Garnet Hertz, on the show, who was trying to brainstorm words, and Keith Tam as well. And nexus seemed to be an interesting word of choice in trying to build a new kind of vocabulary around design or around what we do.
Yeah, I would say definitely to be relevant in design, you do need to consider the viability of business ideas and different futures that we could move into. So considering the business side is also really important, as well as that feasibility. Is it the right thing to build right now? Is it the thing that we can build right now? And is it the right thing for the community and where we want to be in our place in that community? So I would definitely, totally agree and am aligned with that for sure. So I think there's just more and more opportunities now to do that, and it's becoming more prevalent in the way that we consider how we design different futures and work with different communities and how we engage those communities, maybe a little bit more deeply and richly than we've typically looked at how design does that in industry today. So that's something I'm taking away a lot from my master's program in how we are kind of decolonizing design and how we interact with different communities. So I've really appreciated that perspective as well.
That sounds awesome. I'm just out of a master's program as well, and felt like it was a really good time for that. These days, I have a lot of people approaching me, asking me what to do next, particularly after the big tech layoffs that kind of came recently. People are wondering what to do, and often I tell people, well, why don't you build a product or service for these people who kind of need that help now with their careers?
Yeah, that's definitely one alternative to what you can do with your future, and imagining different possibilities for yourself, and how that incorporates building community or helping people that you're interacting with day to day. I mean, with the tech layoffs too, there's a lot of organizations that maybe don't have huge brand names that still need the help and the expertise of the people in the tech community. So maybe a little bit harder to find, but still an opportunity to have a really rich relationship, a really rich experience with them as well as some other organizations that are maybe still scaling their design practice, that would benefit from the expertise of people who've kind of worked at some of these bigger tech companies. So, I mean, it's tough, right? Like through a series of impossible situations, there is, there is opportunities for it, and it can kind of show you where your values are, and allow for you to do a little bit more experimentation because you're faced with a situation you've never seen before. So yeah, interesting times.
No doubt. Okay, number 3. So in terms of career or life, why this of all things? Why do you do what you do?
Um, so I would say that I'm really interested in improving customer experience, or just people's experiences, and how tech can help facilitate that. I feel like, what I've lived through with technology is it's really a space where you can be optimistic about where you can have impact on different futures, and you can look at ways that we can improve different futures and outcomes through technology and enable that. So I think that's kind of what's drawn me to technology in general, is that we can help create those different products or services that can help unlock potentials for other people who maybe don't have those skill sets. So um, maybe it's a little aspirational, but that's kind of what has gotten me really involved and interested in the tech and design community.
That's interesting. I'm kind of foreshadowing one of the later questions, but sometimes we talk about even pen and paper being a technology in a way.
Oh, for sure. And sometimes that works better than other types of interventions, and really understanding the role that that plays, and what problems it's trying to solve as well, right? And so it just depends, like we like to say in tech, but really understanding what problems it's trying to solve for sure, rather than just like laying over a new technology and saying, well, this will solve all the problems that pen and paper can do for you.
Great. Okay. Some people find this one hard, but what does your future look like?
It feels a little up in the air, to be honest. I did this master's program because I've been really interested in it for a number of years, and it's been great. I think it's turned into something different than I originally thought it was going to be, but it opens up, I think, different futures for myself, whether it's doing more foresight work, a little bit kind of different level of strategy or systems design. So I'm just being really open with it. I think at first I was very focused on this was a tool to get me from A to this point B that I imagined for myself. But now I'm allowing it to be more of a creative space where I'm exploring different ideas like digital phenotyping and mental health, what the quantified self movement means, what does the future of education look like, looking at solving problems around the refugee relocation crisis and how climate change is going to affect that. So I think I went in pretty focused on these were the types of projects and research areas I was interested in. And now I'm just kind of using it as a sandbox to explore all these other different ideas as we learn different tools. So I'm not sure. We'll see. Yeah.
And for those of us who are still kind of trying to find our way, can you define strategic foresight and innovation for us? I feel like that's still a somewhat new area.
Yeah, so strategic foresight, I would say, is looking ahead at different possible plausible futures, looking at different trends and doing analysis on different things that are happening maybe in the economy, both locally and globally. How is the population responding to those different challenges? What are the different behaviors that are happening that might signal when you're moving in a certain direction? And then saying, which one of these is most likely to happen and how do we design for that future? How do we take that maybe bigger future vision that we're trying to work towards and make it into smaller pieces so that we get kind of a piece of that as we're building towards that new future. And then the innovation side is really about more innovation management. So far, a lot of the program has been how innovation and the diffusion of innovation happens in organizations, as well as through different larger systems. So that's been really fascinating. And I'm still have some courses to go, but this is what I know right now. Yeah.
Often I get asked about design processes and methods, and it makes me wonder if what you're talking about is about problem solving, or is it more than that?
I would say it is problem solving. It's just kind of the different spectrum of problems that exist, whether they're really tactical versus more strategic. I think it's just the level of zoom on those types of problems is kind of the different skill sets that this program is building out.
Okay, number 5, this is a bit of a curveball. Let's talk about location. How does the notion of place play into what you do?
I would say proximity is really important, and kind of how that develops your relationality to these different problems that you're working on, and being able to experience that in real time and take that perspective to when you're solving different problems, seeing different ways of that the way the world can work and applying that to your design process and how you think about problems. So I found that, like, but prior to this, I was living in Ottawa when I was relocated there for Shopify, and I moved back to Toronto for my grad school program. And even just living in different parts of the city and seeing how the city is working with not-for-profits around expanding different park spaces and kind of the inclusive programs that are available in those spaces have certainly opened up my perspective on what's possible through design and ways that I might want to get involved, help out, or do volunteering to lend expertise and things like that. So I think it's really important. You certainly, I feel like, have to be there to kind of understand the rich context of how the problem lives in that space and how the people are interacting with that problem or set of constraints. So I'd say it's pretty important.
Nice. In my master's program, I was chatting with a friend and I was saying how, if I go for that walk, or if I go to the coffee shop and sit down there, I'll get different ideas. Or if I go to the bar, or if I go to that other bar, I'll get different ideas. And for place to kind of do that is something we don't talk about, I think, in a way.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. I mean, different people live in different parts of cities, and there's different programs available. And so even being a part of that and experiencing that can help inspire different ways of thinking, and just watching how people navigate their lives. So much of that is, in terms of UX research too, we talk about that, doing different types of discovery work through immersion in communities and working with people. And so I think a designer just pulling that inspiration from the different places that we live is really helpful and really important.
We have a guest coming up who originally did research for Louis Vuitton, but now is a flight attendant. And I'm super interested to know when she flies from place to place, if that gives her different ideas. Um,
for sure.
yeah, number 6. If you had to start from scratch, what advice would you give your former younger self?
I would say do what you're interested in and see what comes from there. I believe that it's through your passion that you can find other people that are passionate about that too, whether it's other organizations or other community groups, and you can create a space for yourself with that passion. So it might not be directly related to something that offers a job right away, but I think if you keep building in that space and exploring, there will be people who look for that expertise. So I would probably say that. I know I started off in like molecular cell and developmental biology, then I was interested in human behavior. So I went into economics for that. So that's what I graduated in. And I've kind of transitioned more into human behavior and designing for that human behavior, but a less from the mathematical modeling side. So it's kind of interesting how you find your interest and then just work towards something that's maybe more aligned or, where people value the skill set. So, yeah.
Absolutely. What's a day in your life like?
Well, typically I get up, walk my dog. She's definitely a pandemic puppy. So she's been great helping me with moving and things like that. And then I'll go online because I'm working remotely for EY Design Canada. Usually do a check-in or there's a morning coffee with our team. Do some work on client projects, whether it's an ideation session or planning some research or conducting some interviews. And then usually there will be a client check-in meeting or status call just to see kind of where we're at on the project. I might spend part of the afternoon working with some of our West Coast friends, meeting them and discussing, what we're doing on the client project or where we're going next. I'll probably also be meeting with the intern that I also am working with right now to help direct like some of the work that we're doing there. And then usually at the end of the day, there might also be another type of larger design studio social or like knowledge dissemination session. So that usually takes up most of the day. There's another couple dog walks in there. And then in the evenings, just working on my master's program because I'm doing a summer course right now on cognitive semiotics through OCAD. So usually some like group projects to get the research proposals done or doing some literature reviews. So it's pretty busy, but I'm enjoying it.
Nice.
For sure.
Wow. Number 8, lifelong learning is a popular topic these days. How do you stay up to date? And I know you're in the master's program, but anything beyond that?
Anything beyond that? Yeah, I would say still reading lots of books related to design. So now you can hear my dog. And still reading about design, and there's definitely continuing education that we do at EY. So things around inclusive design and working with clients and things like that. So there's opportunities for that as well. I would say it's also learning through communities. So I was a part of EPIC, which is like a research or applied ethnography and industry organization. So they have lots of great content, both videos from past conferences and books. So that would be another way. And then probably on Twitter, just seeing what the design Twitter is talking about and things like that. So I've been a little less involved in meetups since the pandemic has happened. And I think just my grad school program is also kind of pulling me away from that. So that's kind of an overview of where I'm staying up to date.
Once we get to the last question, we'll find out where we can tweet you at or consume your tweets. What's the wording for it? I'm not sure. Number 9, this is the pen and paper question. What tools do you use? Are you entirely digital?
Yeah, I'm entirely digital for a lot of my work now. So mostly using Miro for workshop facilitation, planning, doing process books for client share outs, a lot of like Google Slides as well, or PowerPoint presentations. Those are probably some of the major tools. Before I was using tools for data analysis, like there's one called Dovetail, and we're just trying to get that into the studio now. But Yeah, it's pretty much all online, since we're working remotely during COVID, and people have been pretty satisfied with that. So yeah.
We kind of have to rethink digital, even the word digital these days, don't we? I mean, now that things are virtual or things are distance in a way, I wonder how that wording will change.
Yeah, I wonder. It really is kind of blurring the line between what is just normal ways of working versus, what does digital mean separate to that, right? As we kind of normalize digital as being the place where we congregate and share ideas and do our work. Um, Maybe digital is going to be the metaverse, and what we do now is just going to be normal ways of working. I don't know. It's interesting.
Mm-hmm. I have tons of metaverse questions, but I won't go there. How do you deal with work-life balance?
Well, I'd say EY has been great for work-life balance. They keep some pretty good hours so that I'm able to do my grad school program. And they were well aware of that when I was joining. So they've been super respectful of that. I'm kind of okay with grad school taking up all of my part-time work that I'm doing. I'm really interested in the content that we're learning and diving into the research papers. So I'm kind of letting it overgrow maybe some of its typical boundaries, but um, I would say my dog keeps me regularly going outside and helps keep a different type of schedule. I have to be very well aware of her. So I'm very fortunate in that I get to spend a lot of time doing a lot of studying for my program outside of working, and that I have the stability of the job that I do that supports it. So I'm just trying to soak it up as much as I can.
Just curious, is there overlap between the work and the school kind of projects or tasks?
There's some things like what I really appreciate about E&Y and RBC was like this too, is they really encourage some experimentation too. So if there's a new technique that I'm learning during my grad school program, I can bring that into E&Y, even if or RBC, even if we're kind of not as a practice quite doing that type of work regularly. They're open to new ways of working and new techniques. So I've really appreciated being able to do that, and then also work with my this intern that I'm working with on my project, who's been fantastic, just from her program, because she's also doing the Masters of Information Design in User Experience at University of Toronto. So it's been interesting to bring her into the projects too and see what she's learning, and how we kind of co-create workshops and expand on her learning opportunities and things like that. So I'd say it's a pretty welcoming and open place for that. But it's always great to talk with the executive director on their perspectives on what we should be doing for client projects. But yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, that's probably a good note for some of our audience. There are those dream internships out there still. They're hard to find, but they're there.
Yes.
Number 11, if you weren't doing what you do now, what would you be doing? Did I ask that? No.
Yeah, no, I don't think you've asked that. Coho recently posted a tweet about if you had unlimited funds, what would you do? And I tweeted back to them that I would probably become like a physician, a medical doctor, because I still think about that now. Like, I would just love to help people in those moments of, crisis when they're coming to you and they're most vulnerable. And are there ways to bring them hope and a different outlook on what's possible for them, and kind of that just comfort, right? And that you can solve their problems and you have the expertise for that. And I think I would really thrive in that environment. Now, of course, like it's different when you're someone looking on the outside versus what it's actually like when you're working in that situation. But I don't know. I think that's what I would, if money was no object and I could do anything, it would probably have been going back to and looking at doing something like that.
Number 12, what would you not like to do?
What would I not like to do? Oh, I don't know. Something that isn't really aligned with my values. So I think if it was necessarily like working with something in big tobacco, that would be tough to align with my values. something like that. So I think that would be like the worst thing. Yeah. So not necessarily a role, but where my values aligned in with that work.
Number 13. I always get hung up with if 13 is an unlucky number, but I don't know anymore. So what's your favorite word, quote, or sentence?
My favorite word, quote, or sentence. There's one that, we used to hear from Harley at Shopify, and it was something like, we're all presented with impossible situations brilliantly disguised as opportunities. And I really like that one. And that seemed really relevant during the pandemic when things got hard. And I think that is so much the case of how the way the world is and how we can navigate all the change and uncertainty that's happening today.
What's your least favorite word, quote, or sentence?
Work hard, play hard. There doesn't feel like there's a lot of balance in that one.
If you had to pick one word to describe yourself, what would it be?
Compassionate.
What keeps you up at night?
What keeps me up at night? I think imposter syndrome. That's one of the things. I've done work in different areas with different people, but I'm always kind of worried that I'm not meeting those expectations, which probably is like a lot of folks. But it's like, yeah, did I run that workshop? Did I run it as good as I could? Were people really happy with the outcomes? Things like that.
There's a great ex-Meta employee named Paula Maricelli who speaks about imposter syndrome very, very nicely. I guess it's a hot topic these days still, isn't it?
Yeah, could be.
What's a dream you're chasing?
Well, I would say this grad school program, I know I talked about it a lot, but I wanted to do it for a long time. And I was living on the West Coast at the time. And it's definitely in person. So having to move was going to be a big hurdle and things like that, but it's worked out after leaving Shopify, and then there being an opportunity to apply and still during the pandemic. And so I'm kind of just trying to finish my program and soak up as much as I can. And that would be fantastic. I plan to get on through it. So
yeah. I was glad to see you enroll in that program. I know we were talking about it before, like probably, I guess it would be years before. And yeah, I really feel like I lucked out enrolling and completing the master's just at the tail end, what seems like the tail end of this pandemic, at least in Vancouver. You must be feeling pretty good about being in that program now.
Oh yeah, being in the program, you're with so many other people who've had different experiences and come from different areas. They're not all in technology. So it's interesting to hear their perspectives and how they think about design and are applying what we're learning. So that's really been a, revitalizing experience. And then also just learning different things through the program. Because so often I feel like things in technology, working in industry, they get recycled a lot. And that's probably because they're effective and just getting the work done. But it just, I was looking for some fresh perspectives and different ways of doing my work and different ways of approaching problems. So I certainly feel like I'm getting that refreshed feeling from doing this and then trying to bring that to my work as much as possible. And so I've really appreciated that.
Okay, final stretch here, number 18. What inspires you?
I would say a lot of the people that I work with. They come from different backgrounds. They're trying some people are trying some new things, and that's always inspiring to me, stepping outside their comfort zone and thriving on the different types of challenges that are brought in front of them and how they still are brave and things like that. And so I see so much opportunity for us to live that way when we think about change and uncertainty in the world today, and just being optimistic and thinking that, everything is designed and we can make changes to it as a result, and it is possible. And so I just am really inspired by the people that I work with.
Nice. And your dog, I hope.
Yes, definitely love my dog. Yeah.
Number 19, any advice you'd like to share?
I would say if you're passionate about it, don't give up on it. It's definitely been not easy, and it's been tough, like you mentioned, jumping from lily pad to lily pad and kind of assessing, is this the right thing to do? What are the trade-offs? Am I doing this for growth or for other reasons? And I think that's been really important. And so I don't know. I would also say just making sure you're living your values so that when you look back, you can say, yeah, I made this decision because of X, Y, and Z. And that's what's right for me, not for everyone else, but this is what was right for me. And that you continue to take risks as much as you can, because I think that's been important. Some things won't pan out, and you may have to take more risks as a result, but I've always felt like it's been worth it. I've always learned something. I've always met great people. So I've kind of not regretted it, taking the long point of view. Everything seems to have a way of working out.
Nice. Okay, well, awesome. Number 20 is kind of the wrap-up question, and I'm sure our audience is going to have a ton of questions that they're going to want to shoot you. How do we follow you? How does our audience keep tabs on you, see what you're doing, or even reach out to you?
So I'm primarily only on LinkedIn where I interact with other folks. I don't do a lot on Twitter, and so LinkedIn is definitely the place to reach out or connect or DM me if you have any questions or want to chat about anything. That's probably the best way for people to connect if they wanted to. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Katrina. It was such a pleasure, and so much kind of rich information there. So much to kind of look at in different ways from different points of view, I guess, and kind of take it for yourself, I think. It's super great to reconnect with you. Like a lot of the other guests, Katrina and I go way back, so it's been great to reconnect. Thank you so much, and thank you to our listeners.
Thank you.